So good afternoon, March the 13th, 2014. This is CISG114, Section 1, Web Technology Live. Today is day number 9 in week number 5. So let's get started. Welcome back. First of all, this is week number 5, and congratulations on your accomplishment on learning contract number 1. I've seen a lot of submissions. May I ask this question one more time? How many of you have submitted all 6 items? Hands up if you have submitted all the 6 items. The learning contract number 1, thank you very much. You've done a very good job. Okay, so please take a look at the white screen. In the white screen, you can see that we have the questionnaire on student learning experience for LC001. This is the questionnaire for me to collect some of your feedback on having gone through this class from day 1 to the end of the first learning contract. So in this questionnaire, I have set into it a total of 32 questions. Very simple. You just need to take a check or write something very simple. It's basically a measure for me to understand, first of all, from your personal experience in this course, okay, so far, and I'm going to ask you some very specific opinion. Do you agree the following, okay? And we have a 5-point scale for strongly agree, something like disagree, okay? Strongly disagree, somewhat like this, so that you can take and give me feedback on individual aspect of this course so far. And basically, I expect that, and I also ask you, I expect that you should have finished reading some of the GE handbook, okay? The GE handbook, do you remember? There is a GE handbook, and I expect that you have finished reading at least some of the learning syllabus, okay? It's how many pages in the learning syllabus, do you remember? About 13. And divided into how many parts? How many parts are there in the learning syllabus? 4. And you got a piece of the hard copy, right? Have you brought with you the learning syllabus? Or did you just forget it? Okay. Now, if you forget where the hard copy of the learning syllabus is, remember, there is always a soft copy in the website, okay? And how many weeks have we gone through so far in the semester? How many weeks? 4 weeks, right? We've just gone through 4 weeks, okay? And this is the 5th week, okay? And altogether, there are 15 weeks, okay? So I also asked you some specific questions on the week-by-week learning experience. So allow me to just walk you through the questionnaire. Okay, this is the questionnaire. So let me walk you through by giving you a preview of the questionnaire. So this is the questionnaire. Now let's take a look at the questionnaire. And I hope you can finish the questionnaire by the end of this Sunday, okay? By the end of this Sunday. Everybody is given one chance to finish the questionnaire, okay? By the end of this Sunday, that means before the beginning of next week, and in terms of Monday, okay? So let us just walk through this questionnaire to let you know it's very important that you know what is meant by student learning experience, because you are going through this course, and I'm the facilitator of this course. I do not call myself a teacher. You can always get to this, don't worry, in the website, right? So you can always get to that. It's in the website. You do not need to copy anything. And then it's a questionnaire which helps you to make decisions based on your experience in the past 4 weeks. For the following, for example, the first question is, do you agree that your learning experience so far in this general education course, CISG114, Section 1, Web Technology and Life, has been decided and render consistently with the GE program intended learning outcomes. Do you remember the GE program intended learning outcomes? How many outcomes are there? Do you remember? 7. Okay, if you look at the GE handbook on page number 9, okay, 7. So you need to make a decision because you're doing a GE course. You need to take a look at the program intended learning outcome for GE. And the second question is very similar to the first one. It said, do you agree that the learning experience so far in this general education course has been designed and rendered, remember the keyword is consistently, according to the course learning objectives as stated in the published syllabus? May I ask you, how many course learning objectives are there in this course? Do you remember how many course learning objectives in this course? 3. Okay, you got it, 3. All right? Remember, you need to look back on the syllabus to capture the very important CLO. All right? The first question is very similar. Do you agree that your learning experience so far in this general education course has been designed, remember, designed and rendered, given to you consistently according to the course intended learning outcomes as stated in the published syllabus? So where in the published syllabus can you find the course intended learning outcomes? Okay, the student said, no, I don't need to go to the syllabus because in your teacher's message number 3, you did give us the course intended learning outcomes. So you go back to read it and see if what we are doing at this point are consistently set against the course intended learning outcomes. All right? And the fourth question is, do you agree that this general education course has been delivered so far, is up to this point, according to the course schedule as stated in the published syllabus? In the published syllabus, the hard copy, I have laid out 14-15 weeks material. And in the UN model side, under the first week's block, all the 15 weeks material has been elaborated in detail. Remember, I have to visit that. So you use that information to check how consistently have we been doing based on this schedule. Now each student might have a different perspective. That's why you can say strongly disagree, disagree, slightly disagree, slightly agree, or strongly agree. It's really up to you. It's a very effective method to see my students' response, okay? Then let's go to question number 5 and 6. Question number 5 said, have you studied our general education handbook as suggested by your instructor in the first day of class? Well, you might say absolutely, completely. You might say almost, more than 50%. You might say some, less than 50%, or not at all. It's really a very good message of your basic material together. And then the next question said, which parts of the course syllabus have you studied and suggested by your instructor in the first day of class? Check all that apply. So when you look at that, you see in our syllabus we have 5 different parts. Okay, have you studied all or just some of these parts? So you please check them for me. Okay, because I can understand where you are when you give me this information. And then question number 8 and 9 and 10 said, which part of the syllabus, this is a very important question, okay? Which part of the syllabus do you find most difficult to understand when you read through it, okay? When you read through it. A, B, C, or D, or E, okay? And then question number 9 said, have you studied the course Moodle side as suggested by your instructor. How many of you, let me ask this question, have never been to our Moodle side? Is it possible? No, because you need to go there to submit your work, right? So you must have been to the Moodle side. And then the question is very simple. Have you visited all the blocks in the Moodle side? That means all the 15 weeks block, or almost between 10 and 15 weeks block, because all the materials are already there, right? And some fewer than 10, or fewer than 5, or 1. Okay, only the first week block, or none. Okay, you please check this on your own personal situations. All right. So, questions number 10 said, do you agree having studied the General Education Handbook could help you understand better this course learning design according to the published syllabus? Okay, the key is, have you studied the handbook first? The second, do you understand what is meant by course learning design? Now let me ask you this very specific question. What do you have to do in the first learning contract? Or what do you have to submit in your first learning contract? Journals. Okay, very good example. So based on the journal that you have experienced, what is the learning design behind writing a journal? Do you understand why you need to write a journal? It's very important. You have to understand the meaning behind this activity. If you don't understand the meaning behind the activity, you might just say, it's a waste of time. It's useless. Okay? How many of you could suggest the learning design behind a journal? What's the purpose of writing a journal? Any idea? Record what you learn, okay? It's a very good statement. So, how do you decide what you learn? How do you decide what you learn? When you write a journal, what do you do first? Search. Search for what? Information about what? Okay. The topic. You need to design a topic first, right? If you do not design a topic, you do not know what you need to search. Okay. So when we say we design a topic or choose a topic, what exactly have we chosen based on the learning design? Where do you pick the topic? Where do you pick the topic? Starting from where? Do you remember? What do we have each week? Feel free to say. What do we have each week to select a topic? After class? Questions. Where does the question come from? Where does the question come from? Reading material, right? So, do we have a set of reading material each week? Reading list, right? So it's from the reading list. The reading list contains different questions. And each week's reading list is actually a set of very important course-related questions, right? And underneath each question, we have a number of information related to that question, right? So when you say writing a journal, you select a question from each week's reading list, right? Actually, you select some questions from each week's reading list because based on the design, in the past 4 weeks, you need to expect to do one journal per week, right? Although you may not actually do it. But if you do the journal for the week, if there are 2 questions there, you need to discover information separately for the 2 questions, right? And how do we call this set of information for a specific question? do you need to do when you discover information? Someone just said, oh joy. Observations, right? Observations, and then you extend the interpretation, then application. And these is the basic design of the learning. Why do we need to do OIA? Do you remember the theme for the first 4 weeks? Inquiry-based learning, right? So the way we try to help you to understand inquiry-based learning is to practice with the OIA process of gathering information to discover more about questions, which is actually a topic, or in other words, a curriculum content for this course. Okay? But what is the distinction in this method of doing OIA, which is a little bit different from traditional course learning? What is the distinction in this course, which is quite different from the traditional method of coverage approach? Do you remember what's the distinction? What is the distinction? Do you have a choice first? Do you have a choice? Right? What exactly is the choice? Everybody needs to do 1 week's journal, right? But he could or she could select which journal to submit, right? 4 weeks journal, only 1 week's journal need to be submitted, right? And then under each journal's question, you also have a large number of information items you can select to elaborate on the search, right? Now, in another course, you may not have the freedom of doing that. Normally, in a curriculum, everybody must follow the same path, right? So in this particular case, we need to learn how to appreciate the course learning design. All right? We need to appreciate the course learning design. So question number 11, we say, do you agree that having studied the published course syllabus, again, come back to the syllabus, this time, take a look at the keyword here. The course design philosophy could help you understand the day-by-day classroom, right here, and online, go back to the Moodle activity. Now, what's the difference between course design philosophy and the course learning design? When you read the syllabus, hopefully you can write that, okay? If you have not, before you do this questionnaire, refresh. There is one part in the syllabus which is said called design of learning experience. Okay? In this part of the syllabus called design of learning experience, I have specifically put forth few points. I'm very glad that looking at the syllabus. He looks like the only person in this class reading the hard copy. You may be reading the soft copy. Thank you. Let's do together. Thank you. Look, just try to read this couple of points. Read out these 5 points. Yes. Thank you very much. Just read that out, please.
Develop students' responsibility in active learning.
Okay, develop students' responsibility in active learning. This is philosophy item number 1. Okay, second.
Make learning meaningful to students' future study or vocational goals.
Make learning meaningful to students' future study or vocational goal. Vocation means occupation, right? And number 3.
Promote overt knowledge construction with down to earth practice.
Promote overt knowledge constructions with down to earth methods. That means I encourage you to put things together rather than remembering things. Okay? And then?
Perform learner assessment to stimulate further learning.
Okay? Perform learner assessment to stimulate further learning. Now this is very important. That is the reasons why you have to complete this questionnaire. Because by completing this questionnaire, I'm inviting you to think of something important. Excuse me, I need to take this. Okay, thank you very much. So do you understand that this is very important because it's another occasion for you to look back on a period of time when you have to think about what you have done in learning contract number 1, what you will be facing in the next stage, which is now learning contract number 2. Thank you very much for your hard copy syllabus. At least I have one supporter. Sorry, I think you all support it, but you don't like to break a hard copy indeed. So let's go to question number 12. Do you agree that the published course syllabus, including the OBTL details? Now, O represents outcomes, B represents based, T represents teaching, and L represents learning, has been well organized to help you understand better the day-by-day classroom and online activities of this GE course. Okay? Now, when you look through the syllabus, there is one section which is called outcome-based teaching and learning. Now, when you look at outcome-based teaching and learning, you discover that there is something what we call teaching and learning activity called TLAs. Okay? And there's something called assessment tasks called ATs. And there's something called assessment rubrics, criteria to give you a grade. Okay? And there's something called course intended learning outcomes. These are expected performance or ability students to demonstrate. Okay? How are we going to put them into perspective? After you've read the course syllabus, do you understand better what we are doing in class? Okay? So question number 13. Do you agree that the blended learning, okay, I just remind you what this means last time. Format of the course delivery, that means now that we're facing the child face-to-face, and then we have the online materials on the Moodle side, and the middle size material 24/7. That means it's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week continuously. You will not use it. Okay? Do you agree that such blended learning format between teacher and classmates face-to-face 2 times a week, plus the provision of the material online to the Moodle environment could be helpful for you to understand the material of this course, activities of this course? Do you remember, for each teacher's message that I give you, I will also give you something called before class activity, during class activity, after class activity, and end of week activity. So these are helpful hints for you to catch up. In case you miss a class, you know what you need to be responsible for. And then question number 14. Do you agree the weekly electronic resources posted online in our UN Moodle course site are useful or helpful to understanding the context and content of this course? Now, we have to understand the meaning between context and content. In a traditional class, we are very much focused on content. So the teacher is very sensitive. That means not talking about content. Content is very important. We need to cover algebra, we need to cover geometry, we need to cover arithmetic, content. But in this course, looks like your teacher is not very focused on covering content. On the other hand, I'm always setting up contacts in each class. Do you remember, I will give you the microphone. So each one of you will give at least some chance to express yourself. So why is this important? Think a little bit about this, okay? And then the dual format of interactive lecture, that means I don't just talk alone. What do? I let you talk, and then I give feedback. And then the second thing is very important, student sharing. You come up here to tell us what you've learned. This kind of dual format, that means instead of only the teacher talking all the time, it's the student who are taking the stage to share. So I see that this is very good to share. Okay, so very good. So question number 16, how many weeks in joint resources, okay, have you actually reviewed in the past 4 weeks? Now this is a clumsy way of asking questions because you can only choose one. Another smart way is to use chat box, okay? And 17 said, do you agree that these courses can help you participate actively in class so far? In what way can you participate in class? In what way? You can come to stand up here to share. Whenever there is a question, you can raise your hand and express right here. Or you can do something called follow-up discussions when I try to invite you to do it, particularly passing the microphone. Okay? So question number 18, do you agree that GE course can help you develop your own independent learning? Now what is meant by independent learning? Independent learning starts from what? Yes, but yourself means you need to choose a topic, right? You must understand what you want to study first. So that is the reason why at the end of your contract number 1 important item is what? Your proposal, right? Proposal is an indication of how mature have you grown into doing independent learning. Because you will discover that after you have studied for a period of time, you want to study something. But if this is not what the teacher wants, it makes no sense because no score, right? But if the teacher gives you the freedom to choose what you want to do under independent learning framework, where you can also earn the point, so much better. So that's the reasons why I asked this question. Do you agree, okay, the GE course can help you understand related knowledge application in everyday life situation? Okay, this is a very interesting question. You need to think about this. Normally, if I'm doing a course in physics, okay, I might ask you, oh, I have learned Newton's laws of motion, so I know that when I move this chair, it's easier than when I move, say, this chair, okay? The reason is what? Because there are wheels in this chair. I do not need to apply a bigger force to move it. A slight force, I can move it, right? That means what? The friction is smaller. What is meant by friction? The opposing force. Okay? Then I understand this is a principle I can apply in life. Now this is called the laws of motion by Newton, but this is the very old law of physics. David Einstein, about 60 years ago, discovered the law of relativity. He's proposing something which is different from that. Okay? But in this course so far, we are not emphasizing on content. So how do we know what are we applying in our life? Well, we're talking about web technology. So what exactly, what web technology are you using? What? Moodle is one. Moodle is what we call an e-learning web technology. Okay? But inside Moodle, when you use a journal, what does it mean? It's an electronic notebook. Okay? Which helps you to keep track of what you got in terms of what? Written text. okay, or in some sense graphics or web links, right? And then what is the second technology you use in Moodle? Forum, right? What do you use the forum for? Discuss with whom? With your another partner, right? So more than one person can use the forum discussion tool, which is a web technology, to express ideas. Now, the question is, are these considered applications of knowledge? How do you consider application of knowledge? What do you think? The use of something for something else, right? So, are you using web technology in this course so far? Yes. During the journal, and also when you search for the information in the interpretation part for the extra free references, you'll go to the web using web engine to look up more information. Now you are using technology, but on top of that, I want to remind you, when you do the OIA process, the last A means what? Application, right? So what does it mean in that context of application? You always reflect on what you did. Okay? When you keep reflecting on what you did, what you write, you are actually improving the way you are applying what you discover. So this is an important knowledge application in our daily life. How do I know it? Okay, let me ask you a question. If I give you an apple, I want you to show me an elegant way, eat an apple. How do you do it? Simple, right? But my son does not like it. He will always ask his Filipino our house helper, help me, I want to eat an apple. And the Filipino house helper, without saying anything, he will take out a knife, wash it clean, and use the knife, cut all the skin of the apple. And strip out for my son to take a look at. Looks nice. And then we cut the apple into 4 or 6 pieces, including scratching all the seed in between, put it in a plate, and then he will put a small fork over there and my kid will take it. So that's the way my kid eats apple. He never learned to get cut like this. Alright? So how do you eat an apple? Different way to apply knowledge, different contexts. So each one is different. Okay, so there is no definite way to unify this. Alright? So do you see what I mean by that? Related knowledge application. And then this is a very interesting question. Do you agree that these GE course could help you think critically about the course topic? What do you mean by critically? Should I critique you by telling you, oh, there is a pimple in your nose, oh, there is a soft hair in your head? Does it mean by that? Think critically? What is meant by critical thinking? How do you think? What is meant by critical thinking? How to think? That's right. How to think about what? Critical thinking means for us to understand something in the knowledge framework is to put it in such a way that we can make sense of it constructively. Okay, not just look at the negative side, we're trying to look at it from an even perspective. So if this is, let me use that again. Is this empty or full of lemon tea? How do you load it? Let me ask you, how many think that this is an empty box? Can critical thinking help you solve this problem? Is this an empty box or box full of empty? How do you know? I know because I'm holding it, I know, right? So how do you know? Critical thinking, can you guess? Critical thinking can help you answer this question. Okay, this is a very smart move. Look! Looks like this hole has not been punched, right? If it has been punched, then some liquid is going to fall out if it's open. Now no liquid is leaking out. Does it mean we still have liquid inside? Well, actually, liquid is empty, maybe. Another way, can you guess? Another way to test without touching it, which you know whether or not it's empty or not. Any other way you can do it. Can I look at it from the bottom? Look at it from the top, or the side? I still see a straw here. It looks like it's a pack that you can enjoy it. So, can critical thinking help you answer this question? Sometimes we need a little bit more information, right? And how did we get this information? Critical thinking tells you, no, I can give you an answer after I discover something more. Okay? So maybe you could say, here I have a new box of these nanotubes. Alright? So can you give your box, I don't need to hold it, put it on a weight scale. Okay? So it has a number. I know how heavy it weighs. Okay? And now I use my pack, which is new, I put it in a weight. And I know if this new pack of juice or lemon tea without being consumed, it weighs like this. So I know the difference between the two weights, right? Now with that difference between the two weights, I can tell if this weighs lighter, it's very likely it's been consumed. This is one way to solve the problem. There's no magic. And what does it mean? Critical thinking. You know how to put things into perspective. Okay? There's no magic. So in this course, do you have opportunity to think about the course topics along this lines, okay? So let me see the time. Yeah, this is almost, because it's important for me to help you understand that. So what about, do you agree that these GE courses can help you develop your communication skills? Do you have opportunity in this course during classes to develop your communication skill? In what way? Then you need to answer yourself. Because as a teacher, I need to try to build this learning opportunity into the classroom environment so that you understand it, right? And then, do you agree that me as your instructor could help you learn to learn in this course? Then you have to answer the question, what am I learning to learn? Okay? So each week the teacher gives us a reminder, which is called learn to learn, which is actually a combination of the guidelines. So maybe that is the way. But isn't that all? Okay? So question number 23. Which item below have you completed and submitted for the learning contract 001 as expected in this assignment? Check all the time, 6 items altogether. You know which 6? We got through that already, right? So, question number 4. Have you measured the amount of time you spend completing this learning contract 001? Have you ever measured your time spent? Very good! I don't expect that until the second learning contract, but if you did, congratulations! You're 50% ahead of my plan, okay? And how much time per week in the past 4 weeks have you spent completing your learning contract number 1? So maybe it's different from week to week, but you can give a basic estimate. This is very important for the student to become disciplined in using the time, okay? If you keep asking yourself questions like this, the next time you will not remember the project information literacy, you will not procrastinate anymore. And finally, this question is very important. How many hours have you actually spent in completing your learning contract 001? Okay? So this is very important. Okay, question number 27. How many journals journals have you completed in the period of learning contract number 1? 4, 3, 2, or 1, the one you submit, okay? From which journal have you chosen your topic to discuss with your learning partner? So you definitely have done one topic, right? With the learning partner. From which journal can you tell? So, and finally, number 29, what is your chosen topic of discussion with your learning partner? Please provide the following information. First of all, which reading list, which question from that reading list, and which item under that question have you chosen to elaborate on. Okay? This is something very important that you need to provide. Alright? Questions number 30. We are talking about inquiry-based learning. This is the theme of the first learning contract. Now please describe, based on your experience, how inquiry-based learning is done in this very first learning contract. And what are the core learning activities? In inquiry-based learning, you have actually experience. Okay? So I think all the answers you know if we just went through this. So the last two questions is, number 31, what did you like most about the design and content of this GE course so far? Okay, what did you like most about the design and content of this GE course so far? Okay? And the last question is, what do you think needs to change in the design and content of this GE course so far? If you don't like anything, what do you think needs to change? I guarantee you, I will receive the following response: no homework, sir. No learning contracts. Okay, I will take that very seriously into account, don't worry. This is in my, but tell me something other than that, okay? All right? I think I've gone through this questionnaire for you, so I sincerely hope that you spend time before the end of this Sunday to complete it, so that I can collect all the information from this class and I can report the same information to you. You don't need to worry about it, it's anonymous, your name will not be released, okay? We're going to give you a picture of how your fellow students have done and can share and look at the information. This is very important because you're learning from one another, okay? All right, can I get back to the normal class now? So if we get back to the normal class, this is week number 5, all right? So when we get to week number 5, let's take a look at these. All right? I would like to share with you a very interesting talk, which is the TED Talk, okay? Done by a very devoted teacher in the following 20 minutes. So get set and get your note piece of paper ready and try to capture idea from the following reading, okay? Please get your piece of paper and pencil ready. So let's get started with this TED Talk.
Very traditional educator. This is what my classroom looked like for the majority of that time. My students tended to sit in straight rows facing the front because I was the one who was usually talking. I directed the show. I decided what we were learning, when we were learning it, how we were going to learn it, what the assignments would be, what books we would be reading, when the exam would be, and of course, there would be an exam. Essentially, I was the master of the universe in a very small domain. And to be honest, I taught like that because that's what I do. That's the way I was taught. When I think about my elementary and my high school career, that's how I learned. My university, even though I was trained to be a teacher, it was largely that as well. And to be honest, it didn't occur to me that there could be another way to do it. And so I replicated what I saw in the classrooms of the teachers that I worked with when I was learning to be a teacher. And it wasn't until my master's degree, when I was working on master's in ed tech and design, and I took a class with Dr. Alex Curls. And that class changed my life. To be honest, when I was taking it, it almost killed me, but it changed my life. It wasn't about technology, although at the same time it was. It was about pedagogy. And I started learning about things like student-centered learning and constructivism and inquiry and PBL. And for the first time, I began to realize that maybe my students could construct their learning. That learning is constructed in community, and that maybe they could be the center of it, and that maybe they would have something to say about it. And so one day, as I'm walking to class, I decided that I was going to ditch my lesson plan. And that was not something I did. I am not a fly-by-the-seat-of-my-pants teacher. I always knew exactly where we were going. And I'm thinking, as I'm walking up to, I had this kind of little podium because I was a science teacher. So, there's a master of the universe with a podium. How much better does it get? So I'm walking up and thinking, I don't have to do this. I have this. I can just teach that. I don't have to do this. Nobody will know any better. And so as I stood in the front of the room looking at my students, I said, if you could design school to be anything you wanted it to be, what would it look like? What would it sound like? What would I hear? What would I see? What would it feel like? What would you be doing? And when they realized I was serious, they began to write. And they wrote, and they wrote, and they wrote. And they giggled, and they laughed, and they chattered, and they wrote with such passion. And then we began to talk. And really, although they did not say that, that was the bottom line. They said things quite kind of like, don't mind that you lecture, but maybe not quite so much. And, we sit on the floor and hear what each other has to say. And so we actually reconfigured our classroom so that we had this huge space, probably this size in the middle, and they all had these learning pods that we created on the outside, and we always sat in a circle in our classroom so that we could discuss. And I found out during this process that my students wanted to make a difference. And it turns out at the time that they had been learning about the wars that had been happening in Uganda, and how children had been enslaved as soldiers, and the schools had been destroyed. And my kids really wanted to do something. And so I said, okay, well, you know what, we need to do some research. We need to know what we're dealing with. We need to know what would really make an impact. And so the next day we went down to the computer lab and we were researching. And about halfway through the class, one of my students comes bounding down the stairs and says to me, okay, I know this research thing is like really important, but can we actually do something? And I said, sure. What do you want to do? And so she starts telling me about this thing that she had found, this Schools for Schools competition. And she's rattling off all this information, and now she's telling me to bring up the web page, and I plug in her information, and then basically at the same time that she finishes telling me all about this, I hit submit, and I said, okay, we're signed up. She looks at me, she says, really? Absolutely. started shouting to the class that we're part of this competition, and yeah, and awesome, and they're all excited, they're texting and telling people, and thinking this is going to be awesome. Yeah, we'll raise a couple $1,000, and kids feel like they're important, this will be great. And so the next day we come back to school, and it was a Friday, and my students come back to class and they say to me, Mrs. Wright, we have decided on a goal. I said, awesome, what is it? We have decided that we want to raise $10,000. And inside my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do you have any idea how much money $10,000 is? And my outside voice said, that's awesome. How do you propose we do that? And they're like, oh, there's this thing called Change for Change, and basically, make all these, change jars, and you put them around the city, and people can put change in them, and you can raise money. And you have to realize, I'm from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, that has a grand total with, probably if you included all of our cats, 35,000 people. So you're going to need a lot of change jars to raise $10,000. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a terrific start. So they start planning, and it was great. And then we left for the weekend. And the thing about learning, when it's something that your students have decided to do, is it doesn't stay in the walls of your classroom. It takes on a life of its own. And you don't necessarily control it anymore. And it just so happened that that weekend at a drop-in center in Moose Jaw, that there were kids from Uganda who had gone to the schools that had been rebuilt by this organization. And my kids heard them and heard how their lives had been changed. And they met them and they talked to them. And my kids were deeply impacted. And so, unbeknownst to me, all of this happened on the weekend, and they came back Monday. And they said to me, Mrs. Wright, and they told me the whole story, and they said, we've decided to change our goal. And I'm thinking, we ain't going lower, are we? And they said, we have decided we are going to raise $20,000. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where I come from, that's a down payment on a house. Like, you have no idea how much money it is. And I think that was the brilliance behind it, to be honest. I think if it was adults, we would have struck a committee and we'd still be there figuring out how to make this happen, and we wouldn't have raised a cent. But kids aren't like that. And I said, okay, well, $20,000. How do you propose we do that? And that began the roller coaster of the next 45 days, because that's how long we had to raise this money. So we had the Change for Change jars. And then, we decided, well, how about we have a roast beef dinner and an auction? And so they began planning all that. We called the caterer. They started, doing all the details for that. It turns out that the kid who went around the city to get every auction item was a kid who never spoke in class. And to me, that was shocking. This was so far out of his comfort zone, but it was something he deeply believed in, that he decided to do it. And so there are these high moments like, the roast beef dinner where we raised $7,000 in one evening. And there were times where it's like, okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And then we planned a benefit concert, and we were going to, we had all these musicians lined up, and it was on a Sunday at the end of November, on the same day and year that the riders made it into the Grey Cup. No benefit concert. Because in Saskatchewan, that's a really big deal. And so it's like, okay, well, how do we compensate for that? Okay, well, how about we hold a barbecue? And we did at the beginning of December, on a day when it was 40 below. And it turns out that the barbecues are started outside, and that if you do that, the propane tanks will freeze. we had half a barbecue to barbecue, 300 hamburgers and hot dogs. And it was a nightmare from beginning to end. And partway through, one of my students looked at me, she's like, oh, this is right, this is so terrible, everything's falling apart, you know, we have to figure out how to fix this. And I looked at her and I said, have you ever planned a wedding? I said, trust me, you're gonna need these skills. And so, at the end of 45 days, it was a Friday, our total was $15,000 in change. And I thought, it's not bad. I mean, we had about 25 kids. It was more than their first goal. I didn't quite reach a second goal, and to be honest, I was somewhat disappointed. But I left class thinking we did a good thing. But the truth is, the story was not working. Because during that time, my kids had actually split up into teams. They just created them themselves. We had a finance team, we had a PR team, we had, fundraising teams. And I would literally walk into class and say, so what are we doing today? And they would tell me. Some of the kids who had done the PR had been interviewed by the radio station numerous times. And the DJ there knew what my kids were trying to do in their goal. And so he went onto their webpage that day that showed our total, and he knew their goal was $20,000. And so, that afternoon, he got on the radio and began asking people to donate to help my kids reach their goal. And the crazy thing is, people did. By 6 o'clock, we were sitting at $19,000. And there was a live stream wrap-up party that was being held in San Diego by the organization that was doing this. And, they saw this little city of Moose Jaw shoot out of nowhere to have $19,000. And through social media, they were actually able to get a hold of 2 of my students. And my kids told them our goal is $20,000. And so, the people at the live stream party got on the live stream and asked people to donate to help my kids reach their goal. And the crazy thing is, people did. So by the end of it, my students had raised $22,824 American. At a time when we were not on par, we lost almost 10 cents for every dollar we raised. That day, I learned to believe in what really deeply matters to them, and to remove whatever obstacles I can to try to make that happen. More importantly, my students learned to believe it themselves. They learned that they can make a difference. They had a saying the entire 45 days: we are not the future, we are right now. And my students learned that there is a world out there so much bigger than them, that cares about the things that they care about, and the kindness of strangers to help them make a goal that they deeply, deeply want. Our schools need to be places that set our kids' hearts on fire, that they can figure out what they are passionate about, where we give them opportunities to pursue it, and that we can give them a place to make a difference now. One of the things that I've learned over and over through this conversation with my students is that our students will often exceed our expectations if we only give them the
Thank you. Do you understand the story? The kids, do you remember how old are the students of this lady? Are they in primary school or kindergarten? Very little kids. What did they want to accomplish? They want to waste money, right? for some common good in the local district, how much they want to raise. At the very beginning, 10,000. And what happened afterward? They want to raise 20,000. 20,000 Canadian dollars. This is in Vancouver. It's equivalent to 100,000 tons. Okay? Did they succeed? Did they succeed raising this money? Have they reached the goal? Yes. How much did they raise? 22,000 Canadian dollars. Who helped them? They got some help from the local radio DJs, because the local radio DJ has been following up with their story. And what did the teacher learn? The teacher, I think that's impossible at the very beginning. The kids keep doing something that sounds to be crazy. From an adult's point of view, no one would care about them. But they keep going on. And what methods are they using? The kids divide themselves into different teams. Not the teacher divide them, they divide themselves into different teams. One team for public relations, one team for accounting, one team for financing, one team for campaign. And when they come into the classroom, they divide it into different groups, and each group are working on these or her parts of the work. And then different groups communicate with one another and keep one another in touch, what they are supposed to do. They went to the radio station, asked for an interview, and then the radio station DJ found it interesting, follow up with more than one interview. And they talk in the radio. They asked the people from the city to help to accomplish the goal for charity purposes. Who asked the kids to do something like this? The kids at one time had discussions about themselves. They vote. They don't want to do this. Let's talk about how to accomplish the dream. We're going to do something good. And the teacher said, the teacher did not say no, but as she shared, it's impossible. Going from crazy ideas. Okay, go ahead and do something. And day after day, wow, they did it. It was surprising. Okay, so what does it mean? The teacher said, I learned from my kids that if you believe in yourself, what you're doing, regardless of the result, just keep going and experience it. So just wanting to learn more from what the kids have been dreaming about. Okay? They have goals they set for themselves. They have guts to try this out. They are not afraid of losing because they do not consider that anything important other than keep going. Now, this is a very interesting talk. The title is The Power of Student-Driven Learning. Okay? You are who you are. If you decide what you want to do, design your way into your future. Okay? Put your future into your own hand. Use what you learn now in school to pave the way to your future. First thing you need to learn is to be productive. The characteristic demonstrate, or better the behaviors demonstrated by those kids that is so active in doing that, they do not seem to waste any seconds of their time. And they are so energetic. Okay? This is something that I want to get across to you. But the reasons why I saw this video today is because we are here studying week number 5, and the theme is self-regulated learning. The kids have already learned that. There are a lot of things in self-regulated learning we educated those very important college students. But unfortunately, it seems to be a bit too late. You used to have to learn this in the secondary school. But unfortunately, in secondary school, the environment is not good enough to do that and touch it. Self-regulated learning starts from setting goals in your life. Now, if it's too much away, say set goals in this course. If it's still too long, set goals in each learning assignment. You finish one learning contract now, you are starting a second learning contract. Now set goals for your second learning contract. How do you do that? Look at the timeline. The timeline, the teacher emphasized very much in the talk. Now only this much time for the kid to do this project. Maybe 1 to 2 minutes time. And it's impossible to waste this money with a bunch of kids. For some reason, everybody knows it's good, but it's not possible. But with that timeline of the learning, maybe it's now 3 weeks, or maybe 5, 6, 7. What are you going to get out of it in the second learning contract? That's the reasons why I want you to read my teacher's message this week. Have you read my teacher's message this week? Have you? Okay? So if you look at the teacher's message this week, this is the teacher's message. One of the important things about this XR bit, when it is put into the context of this course, the second learning contract, is your ability to handle 4 important areas of task management. Task means a big job divided into smaller tasks, okay? And the first one is, do you know what is required of you in this second learning contract? You need to do some analysis, and you need to determine what needs to be done. Okay, the second thing is you need to identify resources and plan your actions. How do you plan your actions? You start out as one person, you now have a learning partner, and towards the end of the second learning contract, you need to look for a partner pair. That means we need to pair 2 pairs together to form a team, okay, by the end of this. So you need to look for a team partner now, which is another pair. And if you are from the pair with 3 persons, you can only look for pairs with only 2 persons. You cannot join 2, 3 persons paired together. And then taking action, meaning bringing things together, and then you need to develop some strategies of how to use your time, deciding your milestone, evaluating whether your goals set at the beginning has been accomplished, and how often should you evaluate it. In 3 weeks' time, so at most you can do it 3 times, once a week, and towards the very last time you have to submit the team. So you need to revise, you need to evaluate, you need to redo, and in the process of these, put into your reflections what you have learned. That is very important. So, and then to help you a little bit, you need to complete the student experience questionnaire that I introduced you at the very beginning of the class today. So, having done all of these, I just want to give you this comparisons of beliefs and behavior and successful students. You heard the teacher there said, I learned very important lessons that if I believe in what I do, the kids has given me a very positive answer. Successful students accept personal responsibility. Discover your reasons of doing something. You understand how to manage yourself in terms of time and resources, and you employ interdependence. You rely on one another, not just one person to do it. Kids, the teams interact with one another. And the beliefs, you see yourself as the primary cause of your outcomes and experience. You are the person who need to make it happen. Define purpose in your life by discovering your personally meaningful goals and dreams. If it's too far away, set goals for this course, for this assignment. Consistently plan and take purposeful action to achieve your goals. And build mutually supportive relationship between your peers. Okay, even though they are not going to be your team partner, but you also rely on them sometimes. Okay, so take a look at that. This is the theme for the following 3 weeks until the end of the secondary contract. And then let's go back to the topics. Blogs, wikis, photo sharing, RSS, podcasting, and social bookmarking. In other words, we have 6 topics in this week. If you look at the reading list, you have 6 questions. Now remember, you share the journaling job of doing the journal this week with journaling partner. So normally it's 3 by 3, okay? Each one of you do 3. So, and then if you can come up with your team partner, and your team partner has another 2 persons, and they're doing something similar, your effort is shared. You understand the meaning of that? So, and then you need to go back to watch the videos. Okay, watch the videos. Very important videos here for this week. Okay? Which is from here. Last time I invited you to think about what kind of learner are you. And then we have just watched this one. So, if you want a quick review on blogs, wiki, and photo sharing, come back to week number 2. Okay? We have a set of video here called Web 2.0 Essentials. Here, you can actually review the basics of the web. And after this, we also have the 5 most essential skills. And also there's something here that I want you to be aware of. Yes, it's right here. Web 2.0 Tools Essential, which is week number 1. Okay? They will tell you everything about blog, wikis, and RSS, social media, and social networking, including Twitter and Facebook. Okay? Before we come back to the others, that is the topic of this week. So, let me take attendance now, and then I give you time to ask questions. And if you don't, meet you next week for this. Okay. Kenny is not here today. Sarah, are you here? Thank you. And then Kara, thank you. Joanna, thank you. Yosni, thank you. Luffy is not here today. Sherry, thank you. Nicole, thank you. Nana, thank you. Vicky, thank you. Helen, thank you. Joanne, thank you. Winston, thank you. Greg is not here. Kathy, thank you. Ceci, thank you. Wendy, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, to remember, please complete the questionnaire before the end of the Sunday. And I'm here available to answer the question. Now, to follow about 45 minutes. You have to go to another class with free will. Okay? So, you have any questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you. So that's it for today. CISG 114, Section 1, Web Technology 9 on March the 13th, 2014.